Comic books have introduced us to a new form of storytelling with a colorful cast of characters and a whole other type of art style as well. But with the ascension of television and movies handling these characters, do comic books really still have a future? Well, let's start off with a little backstory. You see, comic books can date all the way back to the late 1930s when a lot of media was used as propaganda for war efforts. Even the famous Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, even Captain America were created for the effects of World War II to empower those who feel powerless or anybody who feels like they didn't have a savior or a light in the world. This is something that a lot of people don't know about, as these superheroes nowadays are only really seen on t-shirts or on cartoons, but no one really understands their impact they've had on society. Well, in order to get a perspective of the comic superhero enthusiast, we reach out to our friend Julian Malolas to talk about his experience with comic books and where he thinks they will be in the future.
So I got into comic book movies around probably 2008 when Iron Man came out, and that was pretty much the start of the MCU, and that introduced me to a whole new world of like comics and everything. So it's kind of how I got curious. In my opinion, I believe the movies in the future, well, it's probably still going to stay the same as it is today. They'll either help or reduce comic book sales, but probably more on the reduced side because people prefer to look at movies than they do at comic books, just like, because if I'm being honest, comic books are kind of like a cult medium. It's kind of sad but true. And movies are just there to introduce new fans and new generations. And, well, while it is true that nothing's better than reading a book, well, most of people really don't like to read that much, so they just prefer to watch movies because it's easy for them to understand. So I think the movies will slightly reduce comic book sales.
With the resurgence of new digital streaming services and cinematic universes starting up, we're really starting to wonder which interpretation of these comic book characters are more well known. The original source material or the one created by Hollywood movies and directors. They're all forms of entertainment, but which one do people prefer? Well, a study has shown that more people know about the comic book characters through movies and TV shows more than their original source material. And as Julian was a big help, we still needed to go a little deeper. So we had to go and turn it to someone more closely connected to the industry. I reached out to my friend DJ Ortiz and his father to get a more personal insight. DJ and his dad are experienced cosplayers, attending convention after convention, and they have cemented a respectable place in the comic book community and have amassed a growing fan base.
I've been a comic book fan since I could remember, maybe 1 year of age. I think maybe probably Superman was my first hero that I fell in love with.
Well, yeah, for me, it just kind of, it really started with the Saturday morning cartoons. Like, shows like Teen Titans, the original one, and Young Justice, it captured my imagination, and it had a lot of it was very inspiring and fun, and just it was a great spectacle. And all these characters, just their stories were just so compelling, and some of them were relatable, and I just felt like the best heroes were always the ones that you could relate to and look up to. Well, I feel like it varies from time to time. Sometimes they stay true to the comics, and it's everything you imagined, but just as a show, as a movie, and it's just it's amazing. Other times things go south because either the company that's producing the movie doesn't care about the fans and just wants to make money, make things big, or they change things up just for the sake of whatever they want to do. Like, they just change it and they just disregard that sort of universe that's already been built. And I feel like when they do that, the fans don't enjoy it as much. So I guess it depends sometimes.
In regards to where comic book streaming services or cinematic universes or whatever TV adaptations are going to be in 10 years from now. I think the beginning of the streaming service in regards to Titans, I think it's a good place to start. I think so far from what I've seen, it's done very well. It's they're not held to box office standards, if you will, so they have a little bit more of freedom in terms of their creativity. So the creative processes, I think, are amazing.
In regards to the industry as a whole in the future, I feel like since 2008, when the first Iron Man movie came out, it's exploded in popularity too, and thrown into the mainstream, if you will. I feel like it was at its golden age when the first Avengers movie dropped, and the way it's going currently, I feel like I'm not sure where it's going, but as long as they keep the heart of the comics still at the center, then I feel like it can't be too bad, hopefully.